So, Jujutsu Kaisen's finally here, and did it live up to all that dang hype? Yep. Yeah, it did. it totally did. So with that said, everybody, welcome to what is going to be the first of our weekly Jujutsu Kaisen discussion videos. Today we're going to be talking all about Episode 1, Ryomen Sukuna, which I'm positive I'm pronouncing incorrectly, but if you're new here, go ahead and hit that sub button. I'm bringing you some seasonal anime content on the daily, sometimes twice a day. So if that sounds cool to you, go ahead and hit that sub button to see more Jujutsu Kaisen videos, more seasonal anime stuff. Go ahead and hit that sub button. I'd appreciate it. You're already here. You might as well. But without further ado, we're gonna start to sink our teeth into this first episode, this premiere brought to us from MAPPA. I'm not gonna lie to you guys, I feel like I have been hearing about Jujutsu Kaisen for years. It feels like years. It actually hasn't been as long as I believe it has been. I think it's only been out, I think it's only been like in production since like 2018. I think the manga started. Manga fans, correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like it was like 2018. It feels like longer. That's how much hype has been built up for Jujutsu Kaisen. It feels like I've been hearing about this dang manga for years. I've been hearing people praise this thing for so long, and thankfully it totally lived up. But I had been hearing like the build up and the hype for it forever, and I was so curious. Even other mangaka have been praising this thing. Horikoshi himself had said that he feels like Jujutsu Kaisen is going to be one of like the big pillars of Shonen Jump, which is high praise considering, you know, he makes My Hero, which, like it or not, I happen to love it, but whether you like it or not, is one of the pillars of Shonen Jump. That series is huge, so for him to say like Jujutsu Kaisen, that's the other pillar. That's another part that's another aspect, that's another series that can lift Shonen Jump up. That's big praise. So I had been so dang curious to see what all the hubbub was about. And again, there's, you know, little comments here and there that I hear about the manga just intrigued me, right? I had heard about the big twist that, like, they were going to be sharing a body, right? I had heard, and I'm glad I can actually say that without having to be, like, dancing around it. I'm glad the end of the episode just flat out addresses it. But that was, like, a big deal to me. The idea that the hero and one of the antagonists actually share a body. I don't know if Sukuna, if I'm pronouncing that incorrectly, just let me know. I don't know if Sukuna is going to be like a main antagonist or if there's like a greater antagonist or whatever, but I just like the idea of the main character is inhabiting a body that has like a curse within it, right? Like there's another, and it's not like it's a darker version of himself. He's actually like sharing said body with some other entity. That's a cool idea. And when he does, it's like, it's got the, I'll throw up a screenshot. It just looks hella cool, right? And so this aspect, this element of the story is what had me so intrigued. And I did know about this before going into it, which is a bit of a shame. Like, seeing it in action, like knowing nothing would have been a total surprise. But, you know, sometimes manga fans can't help it. Sometimes they just gotta share how exciting this thing is. And in fairness, it happens immediately. It's not a big spoiler. So still, I tried to avoid it in my what I'll be watching autumn anime. This is the big thing that I knew about the series that I thought was so cool. I love this sort of like duality to the character. Like the fact that Yuji is literally fighting a villain trapped within him. It's just a cool idea. Again, I don't know if he's the main antagonist. I don't know if he's just an antagonist or if he's just like a malevolent obstacle that the character is going to have to overcome. Either way, it is dope as hell and I absolutely loved it. That said, there was one big thing that made me very nervous going into this show. And that thing was MAPPA themselves. And more so Sunghoo Park. Listen, MAPPA is a studio with whom I have a lot of trust. I like MAPPA a lot. They've made some of my favorite shows in general. If you see my channel, you could probably guess what some of those are, but if you need me to spell it out, I love Yuri on Ice, I love Banana Fish, I love most of their work, so I'm not, shocked that I love Jujutsu Kaisen or anything. That's not where my hesitation is. The hesitation isn't with the studio, it's just with the fact that for the last little while, They've been making stuff that I am not so crazy about. I loved Dororo in the first half, and then it really fell off in the second for me. I was not a fan of Doro Hey Doro, but I can acknowledge that a lot of people love that show. It's just not for me. Like, I could recognize the talent in that show, but it just wasn't for me. The big reason why I'm concerned is that, again, I noticed like a declining trend in my interest in MAPPA shows, like my personal interest. I'm not saying anything about the studio as a whole. I'm just saying my personal interest with MAPPA projects have been sort of on the decline. I haven't been as hype about MAPPA projects as I once was. And then they got announced to do God of High School. And then they got announced to do Jujutsu Kaisen. And then they got announced to do Attack on Titan. And I was supremely hyped. And then God of High School came out. And again, this is why I lumped in Sung-Hoo Park into the mix. Sung-Hoo Park, as the director, like it or not, he has some responsibility for the fact that I thought God of High School was kind of mid. God of High School fans think that the God of High School anime is pretty mid, and that's saying stuff. Y'all know me. I'm not a big manga guy. I don't read manga. I don't read webtoons or none of that stuff. It's just not my preferred medium. It's nothing against either medium. It's just not my style. I prefer animation. That's where my wheelhouse is in. Animation, video games, stuff like that. That's where I'm at. And I had, been hearing like both hype for Jujutsu Kaisen and God of High School. So when God of High School flopped, even though it was like this big deal, I was shocked, right? So I'm like, oh God, what if this affects Jujutsu Kaisen? What if Sung-Hoo Park can't, what if it's a director thing? What if he can't direct action, or not action, we know that he could direct action, but what if he can't direct a story as well as he directs his action? Oh no, Jujutsu Kaisen has such a cool story, and that's why I'm intrigued. Sure, the action's probably rad, and I'm excited for that. The fact that Park's on it, I know it's gonna look cool, but can the man direct a good story? Yeah, he totally can. Thank God. I was shocked. I was like, yes, he absolutely nailed it. Everything to do with Yuji and his Gramps, perfectly directed, perfectly acted, brilliant scene. I have full faith again. Everything in God of High School now that I see as being shaky, I'm pretty much deeming, I'm putting almost all the blame on the series composition, meaning like the head writers, which also, by the way, included the webtoon author, so that's kind of interesting. But with Jujutsu Kaisen, I don't believe the mangaka has much input on series comp, so we'll see how things go. But yes, Sung-Hoo Park, I owe you an apology. I should never have doubted you. I didn't doubt your ability to direct action. I knew you were good as an action director. But the scene with Yuji and his Gramps was so brilliantly done. I shouldn't have doubted you. My bad. And same to MAPPA. My bad. I shouldn't have doubted you. I'm wrong sometimes, and by sometimes I mean a lot. Just look at the comment section of any of my videos. I happen to be wrong quite a bit. But I was wrong. I'm sorry. I admit it. I was wrong. And if you did watch that What I'll Be Watching in Autumn Anime 2020 video, then you'll know that this is now 2 shows back-to-back that I was concerned about, that 2 shows that did me a concern that I shouldn't have been worried about. I thought Higurashi was great. I thought Jujutsu Kaisen was even better. So far, so good. Autumn Anime, impressing me. You know what I think I loved the most, though? Like, the thing about the show that I just kind of ate up, and mind you, it has been a while since I've seen this particular series, but it reminded me of another series. It reminded me of Bleach. If Bleach didn't have swords. That's kind of the vibe that it gave me. And I'm not saying it's like one-to-one, right? They're very different shows. It's just they had a similar vibe to it, right? They're a paranormal setting, but this time, instead of hollows, it's curses. You got a main character who can see ghosts, but he doesn't see ghosts right away. It's only after he has the confrontation with the curses that he can actually see ghosts. The main character has an evil form, though in Yuji's case, it's not like a dark version of himself. I said this earlier. With Ichigo, he has like hollow Ichigo, right? But that is sort of like Ichigo's like instincts personified, like it's like the darker side of him, a more malicious, instinctual side. Whereas with Yuji, it's his quote-unquote evil form is like a totally different dude altogether. And then there's just this general like badassery to the fights that Bleach had. The sort of like, let's just make cool stuff and have it, let's just make cool designs fight each other. That is I think the biggest thing. Let's make spooky type designs fight each other. That I think is where the Bleach influence begins and ends. But it did give me Bleach vibes, and I am absolutely not against Bleach vibes. Mind you, I have been critical of Bleach in the past. I think the first few arcs are great, then there's like some shaky parts, and then it just totally falls apart. But that's just me. But I do love Bleach, and yes, I will eventually talk about Burn the Witch. I don't know when. Times are kind of busy right now. I don't know when I'll get to Burn the Witch. It'll probably be a bonus video at some point. I will eventually watch it. But yes, I thought Jujutsu Kaisen carried that moniker of like, let's make badass things fight each other in such a cool way. And again, yeah, like it has like that spooky paranormal type setting. Heck, like if anything, the club kind of reminds me of a totally different show. Kind of reminds me of Mob, right? The Paranormal Club. It's like, oh, I've seen this before. But like with Jujutsu Kaisen, even though I had thoughts like where it's like, oh, I've seen this before, or oh, I know where this is going. It still managed to surprise me, mainly just because there's this sort of like mood to the show. It has that spooky vibe. It's perfect for autumn. Like this show could not have come out at a better time. That opening scene alone, like just everything about like the general feel, it feels like an autumn show, doesn't it? It feels like it belongs here, and I like that. And honestly, as I said, the biggest thing to me is just cool designs kicking the shit out of each other. And the biggest moment for me is the school. Like everything to do with the school scene where like they have to go stop Yuji's friends from like breaking the cursed seal, which of course they do. But everything to do with the school scene, the instant this scene happened, like I knew from the moment they see the school and like you see like the paranormal energy like bursting out of the dang thing, I knew I was in this for the long haul. The fact that this scene followed up the scene with Yuji's Gramps is perfect, right? Because as I said earlier, I thought Yuji's Gramps passing was handled with like that swiftness, and it's handled with like the same swiftness that I think JoJo handles death with, right? Like in JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, death is very swift. It just happens suddenly and you just kind of have to react. With Jujutsu Kaisen, it felt very much the same. When Yuji's Gramps passes, you're not expecting it. He's in the OP, he doesn't seem like he's gonna die, he's very lively, he's energetic, he's a little loud and angry, but you know, so it makes for good Gramps in anime. But the sudden nature of that death clearly affects Yuji, right? And he now sees his friends put in the situation where they could die at the hands of a curse, and it's this like twisted, wrong, malicious death that just doesn't sit right with him. And this is where you get his drive, right? Again, similar to Ichigo, death is something that scares him, but it's not so much that it scares him in the same way death scares Ichigo. With Yuji, it's more that he's afraid of people he cares about dying what he deems as an unfair or like malicious death. Like he doesn't want that. He wants people to have just a normal death. He wants people to die with some dignity. You know what I mean? So when he sees that his friends are gonna die this weird, malicious, cruel death, he's offended by this. Like, you know what I mean? Like it disgusts him. And the idea that these people who like took him in, like the fact that the paranormal activity team took him in and were kind to him, like he's not gonna let them go out like that. And I really, really liked the way that they handled that. Seeing like the way he springs into action, it's just great, right? Like he basically is a type of character who I like for a shonen protagonist. Like usually they have like a clear-cut goal, but with Yuji, he just kind of wants normalcy. Like he just wants like it's not so much that he wants to fight strong guys or he wants to find the One Piece or become Hokage or nothing like that. He wants people to die a normal death, which sounds morbid on paper, but it is kind of like altruistic, right? Like he's like, I don't want people to get eaten up by curses. I don't want people to have to fight in supernatural battles and die some weird, crazy death. No, they deserve to get old and die with people around them. Like unlike his Gramps, who didn't get to die with people around him, but like they deserve to be old and die like warm in their bed with family and friends around. Like that's what they deserve. Like that's his goal, is he wants just things to be normal. He doesn't want ghosts and curses and none of that, and he doesn't want people to go out in unnatural ways. Morbid, but given the nature of the series, totally works. Again, Jujutsu Kaisen is perfect for autumn. But as I said, this scene got me, not just because of the Grandpa thing, although that is part of it, but and not even just because of the shared body thing, although that is part of it. For me, the action. Oh my god. The action is absolutely insane. And again, Sung-Hoo Park has proven that he can direct great action series, but you can't have a great action anime without some great action animators. And thankfully, this is one of the few times that Sakaguboru actually got the episode, actually managed to get parts of the episode, like their animation, up on the site, and you can see who animated it. And because I don't have a great eye for that. Like, I don't have a great eye for like, oh, that's so and so style, or oh, that looks like so and so, or like, oh, the like that impact frame is clearly so and so. I wish I was like that. I freely admit that I'm not. I totally rely on Sakaguboru for stuff like that, and I feel compelled to shout out the animators where I can, because dang it, they deserve the praise. Without animators, we ain't got no anime. So I have to praise who is being attributed to most of the work in the school sections of the episode, that being Koki Fujimoto. And our boy Fujimoto-sensei here has worked on such stuff as the Fat Gum and Red Riot versus Rappa and Tengai fight from My Hero, as well as Deku versus Gentle from My Hero, one of the dudes who worked on that, as well as one of the dudes who worked on the White Album and Metallica fights from JoJo's Bizarre Adventure Part 5, as well as working on stuff like Beyblade Burst and Babylon, both of which I haven't seen, but the animation that is on Sakaguboru looks pretty dang great. So yeah, Fujimoto-sensei absolutely knocks it out of the damn park. From the hallway sprint, which, like, oh my god, the way the camera like pans and chases Fushiguro as he like runs with the wolves. He's running with the wolves through the halls, like doing crazy like moves to break up the curse. And then like right after that, you see friggin' Yuji like crash through the window and then just like deliver this huge punch to the curse. It looked so cool, and I cannot stress, Koki Fujimoto absolutely knocks it out of the park with the animation here. Seemingly they did most of like the big moments, a lot of like the key art. So yeah, they're the key animation. Huge credit. Like, they absolutely nailed it. I was so impressed. And of course, you like this whole scene ends with like the big reveal of like the shared body gimmick. And oh my god, Junya Inoki and Junichi Suwabe have immediate chemistry as Yuji and Sukuna. Inoki's like lackadaisical and kind of like pleasant performance as Yuji, and Suwabe's performance as like this like angry but like excited performance as Sukuna. It's funny just how well they bounce off of each other. And it's interesting that they bounce off each other. Why, you ask? Because Inoki voiced Fugo in JoJo's, and Suwabe voiced Abakio. They were part of Passione together. They were part of Bruno's gang. Of course they have chemistry. So as you can tell, I really loved this episode. I have, like, the school scene absolutely sealed the deal. I am so ready for more Jujutsu Kaisen. Absolutely loved it. Very quickly, though, before we go, I want to talk a little bit about some design time. I want to do some design time specifically on Yuji and Fushiguro. And the thing with this is that there's some differences between the manga's design and the anime's design. So it's not going to be quite a usual design time because now I'm like unsure which design I should be looking at. But since I'm, anime only, and I've always, like, I talk about the anime, I may as well discuss the anime designs over the manga designs, right? So with Yuji, in the anime, he has this messy, sort of light salmon-y hair, right? With these shaved sides. And in the manga, it's portrayed as being more like light brown. But I'm actually kind of glad for the change on this front because I actually think it suits him more. Salmon is sort of this like nice, light, warm color, right? Salmon is this sort of like encouraging color, right? Like it sort of calms you down and like picks you up. It's also a bit lackadaisical. Salmon, like in designs, typically it denote a sort of like pleasant, right? Like they're nice to be around, but they're also sort of like, they're free spirits. They kind of go with the wind. They just kind of do whatever they feel like, and sometimes that includes just kind of going with the flow and being a wee bit lazy. And I do think that fits Yuji, right? Like he just he goes with the flow, right? Like the character, we see him sort of like move from scene to scene with a sort of lackadaisical grace to him, right? Like nothing really affects him deeply. Gramps' death does, but at the same time, he sort of takes life step by step, right? He kind of gets over Gramps' death fairly quickly. Not because he didn't care, he obviously cared, but he does have that sort of lackadaisical, encouraging type of personality, and I think the hair choice actually, again, even though it's different from the manga, I think it actually suits him very well. As for the yellow hoodie, I think that's more for the audience. Like, in my opinion, the yellow hoodie is more to denote, like, hey, caution, Yuji is not what he seems. Yuji Itadori is not what he seems. There is something about him that should make you cautious. So the yellow hoodie, cautious, heads up. Something different about this character. Keep your eye on him. Whereas the brown eyes, if, again, the eyes are the window to the soul, the brown eyes basically just denotes this dependable soul. Like, Yuji really is a dependable guy. You can rely on him. So I think that's why they picked the brown eyes. Even in his posture, you can see this sort of like laid back posture. He's not aggressive. He's not like he's not shy or nothing. He has his hands in his pockets. He's confident. Like, it's different to lazy, you know? Like, there's lackadaisical to me is this sort of confidence in being lazy, you know what I mean? Like, he takes it easy, you know? He's like the dude. He's like the anime version of the dude if the dude was like a badass. I mean, the dude is badass, but like if he was badass with his hands, you know what I mean? Am I making any sense? Probably not. And now we're gonna talk a wee bit about Megumi Fushiguro. And Fushiguro, I actually think I prefer the manga design from what I've seen. And I say that because, like, in the anime, he has this medium-length, dark, almost sort of navy hair, which I find interesting. I kind of find, like, the dark hair, like, this, like, dark, medium-length hair to be sort of, like, stoic, standoffish, a bit distant, you know? He's got, like, I don't want to say emo, but he's got that sort of, like, scene look, you know? Like, he's like, oh, I have problems, you know what I mean? I have so many problems. Like, that's, you know, that's sort of, like, Sasuke-ish type of personality with the long, well, not long, but like medium-length hair that sort of like covers the eyes just a wee bit, like not completely, just a wee bit to let you know, he's edgy. He's got the spiky medium-length hair. He's got problems, you know. But the reason why I say that I actually prefer the manga's design is specifically for the eye color. In the anime, he has these sort of like dark blue eyes, which I do think suit him. Dark blue typically denotes a sort of reliable, confident, professional nature, right? Blue is typically associated with like authority figures in terms of like secure, right? Like secure authority figures. So like security, police, stuff like that. Like blue is typically found in like uniforms of security and stuff like that. So with them being in Fushiguro's eyes, with blue being his eyes, I think it makes a lot of sense. Like, we see him being reliable, confident, and professional, like, all of which are traits that come with the color blue, and I think that's perfect for the eye color. However, in manga depictions of him, he seems to have, like, these, like, seafoam colored eyes, like, this, like, light green colored eyes. And while I do think blue fits him better, I think green is much more striking. Like, the light green, I felt like, is more striking and breaks up the design. Light blue blends into the design well, and I'll give them that. But I think the light green would have been a better choice, because, like, the light green is super striking, right? Like, it stands out against, like, the black school-type uniform that he's wearing. And I have to assume that's a school uniform, like what he's wearing, which also works for his design as well. It gives him sort of this like strict, authoritative type of personality, like he's like a hall monitor or something. The way it's like buttoned up to the teeth and all that stuff. And while yes, again, I totally agree that dark blue fits the character perfectly well, and I think in terms of like color psychology, it totally works. I do think green would have been a bit more striking. But that's just me. But yeah, overall, I think both designs are great. I thought the episode itself was great. I thought the action was stupendous. Again, I cannot stress enough my credit to Fujimoto-sensei absolutely knocking the animation out of the park during the fight scene. But that's just about everything. So don't forget to boop that up snoot and share if you care. And of course, as always, I have to give a big thank you to the good folks in the T Squadron. Look at these beautiful people. Look at all these beautiful names. And hey, if you would like to join these beautiful people, there are now 2 ways to do so. The first is by hitting that first link in the description to check out our Patreon page. And the second option, for just a little bit more, is by hitting that join button next to the sub button to get yourself a badge next to your name in both the comments and premiere chats, as well as emotes to spam in said comments and premiere chats, as well as your name at the end of these videos as well. And if you have them emotes, don't forget to spam them away. I will never complain about emote spam in the comments or premiere chats. If you got them, spam them. So once again, a big thank you to those of you in the T Squadron. I am gonna go edit this video and the Hit Mic video. 2 videos a day. That's new. I haven't, well, I mean, it's not new, but it's just something I haven't done for a while. Autumn is gonna burn me out. I can feel it coming already. But until that burnout comes, you stay classy, AndyTube, and wash your dang hands.